concept for this park. It's really been a great and engaging process. There's a couple things I'd like to go through briefly before we get started. First of all, the meeting that you're on is being recorded. Transcription will be available on the city website. There's a link that you can see here. You can copy and paste, and you'll be able to find that on the city website as well. If you do have additional questions, Colby, who was just speaking, will be your main point of contact. You can email him, or we have included his office number, but I'm sure he'd appreciate an email. I also wanted to point out a few buttons. One, during the presentation, we will walk through an overview of the process that we have gone through, and then our concepts for the park, and then we will have a question and answer session after that. There are a couple buttons you can see. The number 1 is where you can mute or unmute your device. Number 2 is the open participant window where you see the 2 small people, and number 3 is the chat feature. And if you do have questions, we'd ask you to enter them in the chat feature, and Colby will either relay them to us or call on people. If you are called on, you can use your microphone to just make sure you're unmuted during that process. As we said, we'll go over the schedule of where we're at, a summary of the work that we've done and the concept refinement that we've gone through, and then we're going to talk about the big ideas that we have. There's a few of us on the phone this evening, or on the computer this evening. First, there's 3 of us presenting. Myself, I'm a principal and landscape architect with Smith Group. Jay Blue, who's a landscape architect and our project manager with Smith Group. And then Brent Schipper, an architect with Ask Studio. We're also joined by a few of our collaborators, Connor Nett, a landscape architect with Smith Group, Greg Roth, a civil engineer with Veenster and Kim, and Leon Younger, a consultant with Pros Consulting. They're doing economics analysis for the project. They will be on the phone to answer any additional questions in the question and answer session. As I mentioned, yes?
Tom, just so you're aware, I'm going to have to allow people to unmute their microphone. So I'm going to keep everyone muted until that time.
Thank you.
Yep.
And as I mentioned, we've started at this a little while ago. We started in August with a kickoff meeting. We went through site data collection, visiting the site, gathering background information, having a public meeting and gathering information on site, meeting people, walking the site. We also did a few surveys that we posted online, and then we started developing concepts. Once we got a basis of what we heard that was wanted, we developed an initial concept or initial 3 concepts. We refined that, and then we've gotten feedback along the way, both from residents, from what we've heard in our surveys, from city and park staff, and from our advisory committee as well. Tonight, we're presenting the preferred concept. This will be our last public information gathering presentation. From this point, we will take these comments and finalize into a draft and final master plan. While this is our last comment period for this, there will still be 2 public presentations, one at the park board and one at city council, and those will be to finalize the overall plans. So we want to start with what we saw and what we heard. The biggest thing, the most important thing that came immediately to all of us was the importance of the city's connection with this open space and with the river and where it is in the community, and how that this park is really a little bit divided from the surrounding neighborhood and from the rest of the city, from a few factors. One, the levee, a physical separation, the busy road and the challenging connection across Sailor and Penn, and the connection over to Union Park. And then the fact that the lagoon actually separates your view from the river. But we also understood how important the river is to the community. This park is within the 100-year floodplain. The water quality within the lagoon is not as good as we would like it to be. There's some existing utilities that we have to deal with, and there's some conflicts with circulation and some facilities that are frankly ready to be updated. To have an understanding of what was really needed, as I mentioned, we conducted a couple different rounds of surveys and information. And this is a brief summary of the feedback that we heard from people. The first thing I'd like to point out is 52% of respondents that we got actually lived within 3 miles of the site. The majority were arriving by vehicle, but 20% were biking, 10% were walking. of the people that were using the park, the first and foremost activity that we heard was trails. Second was paddlecraft, and third was enjoying nature. But we actually heard that there was an equal amount of use of the water in many different ways. We also heard that the people that were responding to the survey were visiting very often. 60% were visiting about once a week, every 5 to 10 days or so. So we felt like we got a really good we got really good input of what was happening or what was needed for the neighbors and people that were using the park on a regular basis. We also heard a little bit about what people wanted to see for future amenities in the park, from ice skating to concessions to bike and paddle rentals, to how we clean the river and the lagoon. We did zoom out a little bit, considering some of the regional connections, both the land connections, the Neil Smith Trail, the connections into the adjacent park system from Birdland Park Sports Complex to Union Park into Birdland neighborhood as well. And then the connection to the Des Moines River and the Central Iowa Water Trail, recognizing that there are key points and key destinations, those pathways in and out of the park that are essential to our larger connection to the broader community. And we summarized what we heard from neighbors and residents in about 5 key points. These we call design drivers, and they're what really drove the decisions that we made in our concept development for the park. The first is trails and connections. They're key to how we use the space and how people want to use Birdland Park. Second is all forms of boating, from power boating to quiet boating, canoe and kayak, and rowing. All of these are really pretty equally desired at the park, and it's important to balance those uses. 3, that socializing community activity spaces are what really makes the park special. We can't forget those spaces within this park. They need to be integrated within this broader collective. But the real essence of the park itself is the view. It's experiencing, enjoying the nature in the city. It's the natural characteristics of this park that set it apart from the other parks in the river, and especially being so close to downtown. And last, we heard that Birdland Drive is important, and we need to explore what our opportunities are for Birdland Drive, how it's used, and how it's connected within the community. So we developed 3 concepts. Now, these are not where we ended up. These are the concepts that we went through. So I will go through them very quickly just to share the big ideas with you. The first concept we called urban escape. And I'm going to point out about 3 big things with each of these. These are the things that we were exploring. The first was how we handled Birdland Drive. The second was how we handled the Marina. The third was how we looked at the lagoon, and then the features around the lagoon. So in this concept A, we explored shifting Birdland Drive, shifting it north of the park at the base of the levee, still connecting it in the same spot, but really removing it from the island. Reconfiguring the marina and its existing basin, but adding more slips to it, and then creating a connection into the lagoon for paddlecraft. Rebuilding the Guzman shelter and creating a more robust feature or package of amenities near the Ding Darling shelter. The second concept we explored was to leave Birdland Drive in place, but expand the bridge underneath. We know that bridge is really only has a 14 or 15-year lifespan. It is in need of some repair. So one idea was, when we redo that bridge, that we make it quite a bit different and we open up our access to the lagoon. At the same time, we expand the marina in place to about 140 slips, or 1.5 times the size it is today. And then look at combining or adding a rowing and kayak club adjacent to Ding Darling shelter and with amenities around that. Third concept we looked at was more drastic. We looked at severing the connection of Birdland Park entirely, and then moving the marina inside of the lagoon, using the existing marina basin for paddlecraft and launching out into the river, trying to separate those 2 uses. This led to a much more intense use near Ding Darling shelter. So we presented those 3 concepts. We gathered public feedback. We talked with city staff, with park staff. We met with our advisory committee. Over a period of meetings, we heard many different comments. We had some really great discussions, but we started to understand some core values and things that we needed to refine within the park. But we really came around one of the concepts, which was Concept A. And in Concept A, we moved Birdland Drive. But we refined that in a few ways. And tonight we'll go through that bigger concept and then some of the key big ideas to that. But what I want to show you is how we refined Concept A first. The first thing we did, you can see to the left or to the west of 2nd Avenue, we moved the boat launch. So this would be located between the Powerboat Club and the 2nd Avenue Bridge, moving it away from the marina and separating that use so there's not quite so much traffic there. Second, we started with an idea of a boathouse and how we fit that in, how we fit Captain Roy's in, and we had this idea of combining these amenities all together in a central boathouse. And then adjacent to that boathouse is this idea of a river overlook, so an accessible area that people can come to as a destination out by the river. The third is we developed a beach concept. That beach would more be an upland beach rather than an entering the water beach, but moving that to this boathouse. So there's this destination site out on the island away from Ding Darling Shelter that creates its own separate destination. So we developed that into the preferred concept that you can see here. So from the west of 2nd Avenue, you can see the boat launch. Birdland Drive still goes under 2nd Avenue. And we relocated Birdland Drive, so it's just south of the levee. You can see on the north side of the park. The existing Birdland Drive, we pulled into this boathouse, which is one of our big ideas. And we'll go through this idea of a river gateway in this connection in a little bit more detail later in the presentation. We also expanded the marina in place. So the marina is about 150 or so slips, so it's about 1.5 times the size it is today. We created a destination at the end of this gateway, an overlook pavilion adjacent to that. We used the island as a habitat restoration with walks and trails, seating to look out to the river, but potential access points on the lagoon side as well that allow overlooks, allow hiking, allow fishing. And then dredging and reshaping the interior of the lagoon to improve the habitat that's there and improve access overall. The other big idea with this was the idea of a destination play space with 3 main components: a play area, play structure, a splash play area, and a skate ribbon and smaller playground, which we'll go to in more detail. The first of these big ideas that we want to talk about tonight, though, is the boathouse itself. And Brent Schipper from Ask Studio will talk through that first idea. Oh, actually, I got ahead of myself. So the 3 big ideas: the boathouse, this gateway, this river gateway across the river, and the destination play. And then Brent will talk a little bit about the boathouse.
Good evening. First off, in talking about the boathouse, the boathouse now is envisioned to encompass not only the rowing club, but it is the rowing club, Captain Roy's, some maintenance space for the city, and then some city offices are also part of this. So we'll get to a plan and explain to you how we put all of that into one building. But the thing that I think is important for people to understand is when we come down the roadway to the boathouse with the parking at the causeway and out front, the main entry is related to that point. And Tom, if you can show her that the building entry. The building entry is for everything, and so we positioned the boathouse so that front entry was very obvious to everyone, and that everyone that is in this facility can be entered from that front door. The other thing is the draw to this part of the park, and what we've talked about as a group was having a a tower of some sort that is the focus when you come over to this area of the park. And that tower, we're going to show you some images, some possibilities, but that tower is something that we would have stairs that could go up. You could view down, and at that viewing spot, you could view the boat club. You could view where they're putting their boats into the river, their apron space where they're bringing boats out of the river, and it also connects via a bridgeway over to the building, and you're at the second floor at that point, which is the terrace level, which would be part of Captain Roy's outside space. The other thing that we wanted to tell you about the boathouse is that the orientation is picked so that from the terrace level, you are pointed directly towards downtown. And that downtown view, we thought was important, that we connected this place to the rest of the city. And that orientation also allows us to have, it makes it so that the rowing club can come directly out to the river, and the concessions outfitter side of the facility can come directly out to the lagoon side. So boat rentals, pedal boat rentals, kayak rentals are actually separated by the building. And so what we were trying to do is we have a lot of activities happening here, but we separated those activities. But it gives us a place that there's a lot of energy and a lot of people, hopefully, but those people are separated into different uses. So Tom, if we want to go to the images. So when we mention about having a tower, that is the terminus for this drive and this special place. We haven't designed the tower, but we have imagined the tower. And so some of these different photos that we have here are just different ways of imagining a tower. And what we saw, that this is sort of the pinnacle of the park. This is where everything that happens at the park can be viewed from this tower, whether it's the rowing club, whether it's the view to the city, or it's just someone's way of getting up and into the building. And then the building itself, right now we're drawing plans. Oh, and this slide is showing, we actually took this with a drone shot. This is 20 feet in the air, and you can see where Principal Tower is downtown. So we would actually have the building would actually be oriented to downtown. And what's interesting is that you can also see the Capitol to the left of that too. So the views of this place are really unreal. And Tom, if we can go to the building images. So we're going to show you a plan just so that you can see that yes, all this stuff does fit. We haven't worked on the images of the building itself, but what we did was take some examples of what would it be like. And the Austin Rowing Club is a great example of what we could be like, and actually all these are good examples. What we're showing is facilities that have the storage for the rowing club at the base, and you can see the UW Shell House is the same organization, that you have the storage at the base because we are at a floodable area, and the offices and Captain Roy's is up in what we've up to now just referred to as our glass box. And And then the University Boathouse at Oxford is again, it's that base, that floodable base, and then a glass insertion on the top. So these images are our sort of our big idea for what that building could be. And then the Boston Rowing Club, we put that in just so that people could get some idea of what would it be like to have a public entry in this two-story building. And when we were looking at the Boston Community Rowing Club, we liked the way that that entry for all their facility came into this glass area at the base of the building. So I just included that just as an example of how a boathouse can have this very public entry on one side. Just quickly through the plans. The front door, front vestibule is the spot that everyone can come into the front door. And from that front door, people could go into the concession outfitters area. So that is where rentals are happening. And what we have imagined is at that area that shows a desk for help, is that there could be an outdoor window and an indoor window for rentals and concessions. And then off of this area, there's storage for those rental items, and some restroom changing rooms as a part of this. And I will say that these plans may be more detailed than they should be at this scale, at this stage, but I wanted to make sure that we showed people that all these things can coexist and work well together. When you come in the vestibule and then you're into the stair lobby area with an elevator, if you were someone that had business or a visitor to the rowing club, you could go into the rowing club. We haven't developed the rowing club, but that idea of that area would be some offices, a shop space, the changing areas, locker rooms. And then beyond that area is out to the rowing club boat storage. And the rowing club boat storage has overhead doors that go out to the river. And then we have one path of overhead doors that go out to the lagoon, because we know the rowing club has some rowers that have special needs that don't necessarily want to go to swift current, but they want to go to the lagoon. So we were pretty proud of the fact that we got this working both ways. And then up in the corner, there is some storage. That storage we saw is possibly for the restaurant storage. And then down in the southeast corner is where city maintenance is, with some overhead doors. Now, if you were to be going upstairs, you would come in the vestibule, come up the elevator or the stairs, and you would be in a lobby area that has either offices around one corner. We have restrooms that for all the facilities upstairs, restroom facilities that would cover the offices and the meeting rooms. And then we have Captain Roy's that would be the major part of that upstairs, and their dining area and their kitchen area. And so far, this is put together. This was very much a preliminary design, but what this allows for is for there to be a kitchen area that has direct access that goes downstairs for services that are downstairs. And I think the highlight of the building is the river terrace outside of all of these spaces. And that river terrace then connects with the bridge to the tower, and so that the elevator, if someone wanted to experience the tower, they could experience from the elevator and come across the terrace and go over to the tower. So what we were trying to do is interconnect all of these different uses into one building that had a lot of synergy with all of its uses.
Brent, before we leave this is Jay. Before we leave this slide, I think it's worth pointing out too that the intent here is that Captain Roy's has that back face on Captain Roy's is all glass, so it is looking out to the lagoon,
Right.
to the north, and the south face, which overlooks the terrace, is also all glass. So that's overlooking the terrace and then ultimately off to the city.
Right. And another small part of what we tried to solve programmatically is the meeting room in the northeast. We've discussed the possibility of that could be a meeting room, either a public meeting room, a city meeting room, or it could actually be even a party room for Captain Roy's. That's getting into the weeds a little bit, but we positioned it in a place that it could have multiple different uses, and it's in terms of the building, it's in a great corner, a great public corner as people come up to the building.
All right, the next big idea that Tom had introduced us all to is what we're calling the River Gateway. This idea of connecting Pennsylvania Sailor Road all the way over to the river in a really meaningful way. And so what you can see here in this kind of peach tone is this area that we're defining as, and we're calling it the River Gateway. That maybe that's not the right name, but that's the term we've been using for now. The idea being that the River Gateway begins at the entrance to Birdland Park, and then that tower structure that Brent just shared that would be connected to the new boathouse is a terminus to that River Gateway, and it serves as a mechanism to anchor that River Gateway. And Tom, would you mind advancing us to some precedent examples of what that gateway experience could be like?
Sure.
So the way that we're envisioning that is that this river gateway is both a vehicular and pedestrian space, and it's very much a plaza space. Yes, we are going to have vehicular access on this bridge, this new bridge that will provide vehicular access down to the boathouse, and there's a small parking lot on the other side of the boathouse. But also the real idea is that this is really also a pedestrian space, and so it's deliberately paved, it's deliberately designed in a way that, to be perfectly honest, a vehicle, someone driving a vehicle who doesn't know it might think, I don't know if I'm supposed to be out here or not, and that's okay. We want it to feel like it's a mixed space between cars and people. On special events, that causeway or the river gateway can become something really special. If we jump to the next slide, Tom.
I think you're slightly delayed from my screen. It's there on mine.
So it is a little delayed on my screen. There we go. We can do some really fun things out there. So a couple different things that you're seeing here on the lower left-hand corner is what happens if we close the two ends of the causeway for 4th of July and it becomes another beach, and we bring sand in and it just becomes this great pedestrian beach space and no vehicles are allowed for a while. Or as we're seeing in the top center, it's a farmer's market. And so we've got the farmer's market right on top center and top right. It becomes a farmer's market on Saturdays or Friday evenings. It's also it's got food trucks out there or something like that. That's different kinds of experiences out there that could be really special. What you're seeing in the lower right hand corner, we thought was really, really fun. That's a floating movie screen, and so that is a river gateway experience. Folks are gathered for movies on the river, and so this could be a really fun thing that happens in the lagoon. That special summertime movies on the river gateway become a really special experience that starts to happen over and over again. Becomes a really special kind of thing that the community could be involved in. Next slide, please.
It's coming.
Thank you. The third big area that Tom talked about was this destination play, and we have some really fun ideas about what could happen here. We've really broken the play up into a couple different types of play experiences. There's a big play structure at the top of the play area with the idea that it has some sort of interface with the lagoon. You can see that they're showing it with a tower and a bridge experience. That just for folks that are trying to gauge that and maybe have visited that, those are the towers from Maggie Daley in Chicago. Those are lifted right off of Chicago's Maggie Daley. So they are true size to a real space. In the center space, we're looking at a splash experience in a shared restroom pavilion structure. It might be open in the summertime for picnicking, but then in the wintertime, that pavilion structure might have garage doors on it or something like that that allows us to make it a four-season structure, and it becomes the warming house for the skate ribbon, which is shown down here. The skate ribbon, just to give people a sense of how big this is, it's about twice the size of the skate ribbon at in Green Bay. So if anyone's been to the skate ribbon in Titletown, it's about twice that size. It's about half the size of the skate ribbon in Maggie Daley. It does have a little bulb at the north end on purpose so that there's a small rink area there for smaller people who just want to do some spinning around. And there's a real intent here that this skate ribbon is something that we'll show you a couple slides of it in a minute, has opportunities all year round. And then something we call the forest play area or the play pod, a smaller spot that's different kinds of play experiences that has a different kind of verticality to it. So hillside slides, those kinds of experiences, just a real opportunity for there to be a bunch of different kinds of play opportunities that are taking place here. And I want to show you a couple images of what this could be like. And I know they'll be here momentarily. There we go. So there's some destination play tower examples. The lower left-hand corner, as I said before, we lifted right off the Maggie Daley towers. Those are the Maggie Daley towers from in Chicago. But a couple different other examples of some really fun tower structures that can have a lot of fun experiences. We really like this idea of there being a couple different elevations of bridging experiences. Those bridges are completely enclosed, so kids can't fall out. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner too. It's a little tough to see, but those blue ribbons are actually taking you from one main tower to smaller tower pods, and then the last tower pod has a really fast slide coming out of it. If we go to the next set of images.
And those are all playgrounds that can have some kind of a community character that we develop over time with you, and really becomes a custom thing for the city of Des Moines and for Birdland Park. That there's a memorable piece to that. It's a one-of-a-kind structure, but it's based on the idea is that it's based on a system that's made from a manufacturer.
A catalog system. Yeah, it's not a custom piece that we're looking at here. Exactly. It might be a custom arrangement of catalog pieces, but we're not looking at someone developing a custom piece for you. And there's some cost benefit in doing that. Now we're looking at some splash images. So at this, you can kind of see in the upper right-hand corner, we're in the center of that destination play area, and the opportunity to create some different types of splash experiences. We are doing a project right now in India, just outside of Indianapolis, that I've been involved in. Tom's helped with it too, where we've done some really creative things with the splash play area. The splash play area has some STEM features with it, the STEM learning experiences, where we worked with a manufacturer that helped us develop a timing to the play features that allows kids to have an interactive experience with the timing of the fountains and the jets, and looking at different ways that they can come out of vertical walls in addition to coming up out of the ground. And I think that's all an opportunity for this splash play area. Again, we don't have firm ideas of what this will be like. We're just trying to generate the sense of space, the place that it would be. We're just waiting for it to advance on my side. Sorry, everyone. There we go. Here's this play pod or the play forest area. And you can see the intent here is that it has some more vertical experiences in terms of the ground plane being more hummocky and sort of mounding up and down. Also, the opportunity for this play area to maybe become a bit more nature-based or adventure-based in its aesthetic, loosen up some of the materiality of the space, allow kids to have a different kind of play opportunity. It's intended to be a tight little really fun spot. And when I say it's a tight little really fun spot, it's basically the size of the play area you have now at Birdland Park. So to give you a sense of what tight little fun spot that is, but playing with some of the topography to allow us to make some really fun experiences out there. Next slide, please.
It's on its way.
And then, thank you, sir. And then here are some examples of that skate ribbon. So what we wanted to point out here is that the skate ribbons are really popular in lots of different communities, but not all communities have handled what to do with the skate ribbon when it isn't winter successfully. And we think there's a lot of opportunity for the skate ribbon to be this great spot where you could rent or lease rollerblades, roller skates. Maybe you allow little scooters on there. Maybe you allow, maybe it's allowable for people of a certain size or certain age to be out there on their tricycle or with training wheels or something like that. That maybe you have little mini races out there for people of different sizes. But just this idea that this ribbon becomes something more than just a four-season type of experience, that it can really be have exercise and fitness value even at in the warmer times of the year, and could be a lot of fun just to be in that space. And that becomes really exciting to us, especially as it weaves its way around the play pod, as it bumps up to and gets close to the lagoon, as it gets close to the splash play area. It becomes really exciting.
There's a couple different systems we talked about with this as well. Whether it is a glycol system that keeps real ice cool, or there are systems that are actually fake ice that could be used as well, that function for this type of use. So there's some opportunities to explore how this fits in and how it's maintained and operated throughout the year.
One of the things we want to make sure it's clear, because I don't think I did a very good, I didn't present it really at all, but you know, there is a long history of skating here at Birdland Park, and unfortunately, in today's environment, skating on ponds is becoming increasingly difficult. In large part because of the amount of different materials, chemicals that are used to clear snow and ice from roadways, and the amount of runoff into our ponds. And so, we thought it was, you know, as a marker of what Birdland used to be, in the history of what used to be there, skating became really important to us as a design and play place and a community gathering and experience space. But we have to be honest with everyone, it needs to be differently than it was before. I don't think it would be safe in time to continue to try to do ice skating on the lagoon here for different reasons, but primarily salt. And then the last images of big ideas, this is idea number 3A, or make it number 4, is the marina. And this idea of what the marina will be like. So as we have presented, the marina is getting about 1.5 times larger than it is. And what we wanted to do is show you some of the finishes of what that new marina might be like. We had a call earlier this week with the parks group from the city of Des Moines, and the question came up, what would that be like? And as you can see, it could be composite decking, or it could be an aluminum decking, but really the intent is that you have a much cleaner, more modern form of a marina. We're also looking at the opportunity for there to be a larger variety in boat sizes, from 20-foot to 35-foot boats. And Colby, just to help you get a better picture of what that gateway might be like, because we talked about this up in the upper right-hand corner, a gateway does not have to be a chain link fence. A secure gate system to a marina does not have to be a chain link fence. It can be much more aesthetic, as we're seeing from a project at Cedar Creek.
The other
Thanks,
thing,
Dick.
the other thing you can see on the marina on the left is you can see the large gangway in the background, which this is actually the same marina, but you can see how it adapts to the fluctuating water levels, so it always remains accessible. And you can see the individual features from the docking stations that you see next to the boats in the lower left-hand corner, for power and electricity, to how a fueling system might work in a transient dock by the boat launch as well. So these are the type and quality of amenities that we've considered and looked at it, and this is what the expectation would be for the level of fit and finish for the marina. So Jay, I'm advancing slides.
Yeah, I figured you are. We wanted to end the show giving you a sense of some of the things that we felt were really important. We heard from you how important these kind of experiences are here at Birdland Park. So starting with trails. Right now, today, there is 1.2 miles of trail. With the proposed concept that we're showing you here, there is 3.1 miles of trail. And a big distinction that we want to make sure is clear is that today, the trails pass through. They go point A to point B, whereas the trails that we've proposed as part of this concept are a loop trail. That is not something you can do today. You cannot circumnavigate the lagoon. And an outcome of this proposed concept is that you will be able to circumnavigate the lagoon. And you've got almost, not quite, but almost twice the amount of trail length here.
Second one is parking.
Yeah, we really worked hard at finding a way to, with all of these new features, you are going to have a lot more people interested in this park. And we wanted to make sure that parking did not become a dominant experience in the landscape. So what has happened is that the parking is dispersed throughout the landscape in these concepts. You can see the numbers in pink are the automobile parking spaces, the number of spaces at each parking lot, and those numbers include handicap parking spaces. We've also included a total of 34 proposed trailer parking spaces. So all said and done, about 160 more regular parking spaces here and 34 proposed parking spaces for trailers, including some trailer parking down by the new boathouse, and that, of course, the large trailer parking over by the Powerboat Club. We also looked at how much play space there is, and in addition to the destination play area over by Sailor and Pennsylvania roads, we've looked at some smaller play pods throughout the park. And really, this becomes exciting to us that you went from about 13,000 square feet of play area to over 40,000 square feet of play area. And not all of that has to be swing sets or slides and that kind of play feature. These can be other types of play experiences. These could be learning play experiences, particularly those that end up on the island really can become a different type of play than is out there today. But this idea that there's a play throughout this space becomes really exciting to us, that you don't have to go to the destination play area. There are these other smaller areas that are available. And we also hope that destination play area, I hope it becomes the kind of place that my kids want to go to over and over and over again. Anybody who's got kids at the right age knows exactly what I'm talking about. They have these playgrounds they want to keep going back to. And then lastly, the marina. You're at 64. I think that number's a little off right there. You're at 64 slips today. We're looking at 150. And as I said before, we're looking at 150, and that includes boats from that fit the 20-foot slip size to a 30-foot boat slip size. And so a lot more diversity in terms of the number of the types of boats that can come in, and a lot more opportunity for boats to come in. One thing I want to make very, very clear to everyone, because this was a question that had come up in some of the earlier concepts, and I'll allow Tom to trace this out with his mouse maybe for us. The intent is that large motorized boats are going to go to the marina or to the public boat launch. The lagoon is not intended to provide access for large motorized boats. That is a quiet boat, and occasionally there may be smaller outboard boats in that space, but that lagoon area is intended for quiet boats. And so we want to make that very, very clear to everyone. Those large, it's not designed, that bridge that goes over the gap between the river and the lagoon, it is not designed for the larger boats from the marina or the public boat launch to be able to fit through there.
Hey, Jay, I just wanted to touch on the marina, just that 150, that's our max target. As we work forward, that number may massage a little bit. Just wanted to
Sure.
put that out there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Colby. As Tom mentioned in his presentation, one of the things that we are intending to do is to make sure the lagoon is dredged. And when the lagoon is dredged, we'll be developing these habitat areas. You can kind of see those habitat areas along the edges of the lagoon where there'll be shallower benches, sandier benches, and those will be planted with native vegetation. There'll be a combination of emergent and submergent vegetation that would take place along those edges. All said and done, as proposed here, we're looking at about just under 23.5 acres of restoration area, where the expectation will be that there will be a lot more naturalized native habitat, ecological habitat. And to be clear, there's probably other areas, but we're focusing in on the large areas of habitat restoration. And there are 3 really specific designated fishing overlook areas, fishing piers and overlooks. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. There's also some additional other fishing opportunities. Immediately to the west of the new Neil Smith Trail, right there where Tom's cursor is, there's the opportunity for additional fishing to get down to the river. And right smack dab in the center of the island, there is what we're showing as a proposed set of staircases where folks could come in and just be able to cast right out there into the river as well. So we really, I want to make sure that folks are able to see this. We did hear you. We heard how important the opportunity for fishing to get out here is, and we wanted to create these special fishing areas that allow a couple different types of fishing experiences on the river and in the lagoon. Is that our last slide, Tom?
That is our last slide.
Our last slide ends with an image of the concept master plan. I do want to point out something that I don't think we covered when we presented the master plan. Tom, if you would just take a minute to show the levee trail that we've designed into this. I'm waiting for your cursor to pop up.
Oh,
there we go.
Up here.
There we go. So we did look at developing a levee trail that would take you to 2nd Avenue. We've had some preliminary discussions with the city about this, a connection to 2nd Avenue that would allow a visitor to run, then go north along 2nd Avenue up to Holcomb. If we were to have a special event out here, say someday maybe the rowing club regatta happens here, we looked at an opportunity for there to use the parking at the Birdland Sports Park. Birdland Park Sports area, the park area, and use that parking to be able to bring pedestrians along Holcomb, cross 2nd Avenue, over to the east side, come down 2nd Avenue, and you can pick up that levee trail. And actually, that levee trail will also spill you right back out. You don't actually have to run the whole levee. We've looked at a way to come down the levee trail right on the west end of our park here as well. And then we did start to look at how that how that 2nd Avenue trail and levee trail could connect up with that Central Place levee trail on the south and west side of our park area. So with that, we'd be happy to take questions or sharing the feedback that you all might have.
And I'm going to, let's see, unmute everybody here shortly. Let's see. How do I do that?
Well, there is a question here in the chat box. I'm going to ask Connor if you can run the size of the lagoon for us? Connor, could you do a surface area measure of that for us?
Yes.
And I've allowed everyone to unmute their mic. we'll have to exercise a little bit of patience in going one at a time, but all attendees are now unable to unmute as desired to ask a question.
Colby, are there people that you would like to call on, or anyone with their hand up?
I see Tanya's got her hand up.
I don't have any questions. I'm Des Moines Rowing Club, and I just want to say how much I appreciate and we appreciate what this looks like right now. This is, we have such a great future based upon all these things, and we appreciate it. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tanya.
There's a question about dredging the, I'll let the city address this. There's a question about clearing debris, fallen trees from the river, and dredging the river to allow for larger boats.
As part of this vision, that's not been a scope within this master planning vision, and it's actually not something that I'm aware of having come up through this master planning process. So that's a new thought. It's something to consider. However, that's new information, so I think we would have to digest that a little bit.
Several questions about will there be bike parking at the new Captain Roy's. Absolutely. It's at this level we haven't figured out where all of those types of features would be, but absolutely. In fact, I think shame on us for maybe not making it more clear. Would you take a moment, Tom, to trace out the route of the Neil Smith Trail? The Neil Smith Trail is going to run right in front of the building, and there would absolutely be bike parking at Captain Roy's. That's a must.
So the Neil Smith Trail follows the old roadbed of Birdland Park Drive on the island, and then when it turns into this beach area, it joins up with the drive, and then it follows the old Birdland Park Drive and connects to the trail and goes to the south. And we recognize that there are a very large quantity of bikers on that trail, so we would want to make sure that there was ample bike parking for that here and then throughout the park in general, that we anticipate that this will be a destination for bikers within the greater Birdland Park as well.
And I think there's also some zoning requirements that dictating bike parking as well, so obviously that's a must.
Yep.
Let's see.
Lagoon question. Existing lagoon is about 9 acres, and the proposed right now is 10.7 acres.
So 10.7, David. Currently 9. Right here we have a question. Will there be an easy way to remove our boats from the boathouse and trailer them away to regattas?
Yes. I believe what you'll find is that the space, as we've looked at it, is actually larger than the space that is there today.
Then we have a question from T. Dayton. Who will maintain safety along the river, Des Moines Police or DNR presence? This would fall under the city PD jurisdiction. And one thing I would add is that the river gateway, and as you follow through that new Neil Smith Trail, all of that is designed for emergency egress. So even though the trail bridge over the lagoon opening is more of a trail feature, it will be designed to support emergency egress for fire, EMS, etc. Well, EMS and PD for sure. Fire truck I'm not so sure about that. Will rowers be launching or putting boats away have to contend with bikers crossing the path? This could be a big safety issue. I can take that, or Tom and Jay, it doesn't really matter to me.
Go ahead, Colby.
All right, so given the number of dedicated users out in this space, I think it's going to take time as we build out that the users are essentially going to have to get used to each other to share that space. I think Smith Group has done an excellent job reducing use conflicts throughout the site. Currently thinking about how busy the parking area can get around the boat ramp by Captain Roy's. But again, focusing on the river gateway being designed to be a very pedestrian focused space. The whole point of that is that everyone kind of takes off their blinders and are paying more attention to the things happening around them, and being more respectful to the different users, sharing a single space for a complex recreational program.
And Colby, I would add to that that a major design driver within this space is to slow that traffic down.
Yes.
We're intentionally creating a zone where cars have to move slowly, bikes have to move slowly. So just the angle coming from the river gateway and making that right turn will slow everyone down. On the other side, you're coming into an area with different material and more activity. So there'll be visual cues and physical cues that will slow some of that traffic down. Even though there are people moving through there, they won't be. It'll be challenging to bike through there at 30 miles an hour, where we have extreme use conflicts.
And I did see Jack had his hand up at some point before a few more of these questions came in. I wanted to say, go ahead, Jack, if you still have a question. No? All right, we can move on. Let's see here. From 64 slips to 150 would more than double the boats at the marina. Are you considering the increased boat traffic and safety concerns of the many on the river? I know Jay had looked into, explored specific, I guess, policy, or Jay, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah. This came up at the second public input meeting. Is there guidance or policy regarding the number of boats on the river in this kind of a situation? And there is not. There is not guidance that we are able to identify that says there should be this many boats for this, based on the width of the river or the length of the river or the size of the boats. In the absence of them not involved in commercial traffic, and this is not commercial traffic. You're not shipping goods up and down this river. So in that regard, there is not guidance there. I think the key here is the river is loved now, and there's every expectation that the appreciation for the river and the number of users who want to be involved at, on, or near the river is only increasing. And there's going to have to be some better understanding of the wrong phrase, but rules of the road for everybody on the river in terms of how to get along better and make sure that we're being safe and conscientious of one another.
And I think along with the larger water trails effort, there's going to be an educational period where everyone's learning to operate in these new spaces and be respectful of each other. I did note that Supervisor Hawkinsmith, one of our advisory committee members, had a question. Wanted to make sure and get that question in here. Go ahead, Tom.
Sure. It's not as much of a question as it is just a general statement. Just thanking everybody for the work that's went into this, because I was around back when Jack Doherty and Wade Thompson first started the initiative to build Captain Roy's, and that was a catalyst to get people from all over the metro. I mean, 15 years ago, there would have been no one from Urbandale or West Des Moines or anywhere in the metro down in around the Birdland Park area. And once people started coming down that area at Captain Roy's and saw the potential of what we could do here, it became a lot more of an exciting concept. And Ben Page and the city staff and Linda Westergaard, everybody that's been involved in it, this is exciting stuff. And the Water Trails Initiative, the whole Water Trails Initiative, this could be the catalyst or the hub for it all. And I'm extremely excited about it from a Polk County standpoint, and I just wanted to thank you all for your work and the city and Ben and everybody, and specifically Jack and Wade, who stuck their necks out a long time ago on Captain Roy's.
Appreciate the comment. All right. Now we have a question from John. Will the main channel remain the same for power boater use? I'm guessing that is the river channel. Yeah, that would be a shared space for both paddlers and powerboat uses. Question from David Flayler, talking about build out timeline for the entire area. I think that is a piece we're still working on. And I think that's a piece that we tackle in a very intentional way from here, and it is part of the master planning scope. So it was a big focus was developing this vision, and then now strategically thinking how we're going to pick it apart and implement it over a phased approach. At this point, I'm not going to throw out a number of years, but I know internally our team, the Parks and Recreation team, is very excited about this work. And I'm excited to start writing grants and trying to get further buy-in so we can approach this as quickly as possible.
And Colby, I would add to that a project of this kind of transformation, when we've typically done these, they've typically been done in some kind of phasing that happens over years or over a period of time, where we have a primary phase and then we implement other phases of that afterwards. And that's part of how we'll wrap up the some of the next steps of the master plan, is to understand what those are.
Well, thanks, Tom. Have a next comment from Todd. Let's see. For bike parking, please consider the desire to have a view line of sight from the bikes from the second floor of Captain Roy's. Can totally empathize with that. For those that have ever done RAGBRAI, always keeping a line of sight on your bicycle is something, always a fun exercise. So completely understand that, appreciate the comment. Hear from Rachel, also curious about timeline. So we touched on that one. From Ken, with 150 boat slips, parking for cars would be an issue. Showing 1 to 3 cars per slip.
Tom, would you mind circling the parking areas in and around the marina? We planned for about 220 to 215 parking spaces around the marina. I might have my math wrong now, so as the numbers come up.
I just went to the parking page.
Yeah, okay, good. So we've got 90, 140, 150, plus another.
It's about 172 between these three.
172, yeah, yep.
I don't know if they're like, obviously if they can hear me, they would say, be quiet.
Let's see. We also have can you review again where car traffic will be able to go? So just tracing that the street line.
Sure.
And I think Eric is trying to say something there too. I was having a hard time hearing Eric. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's my bad. I didn't know I was unmuted.
So I'll show. Colby, are you following my my pointer here?
Yep.
I'm following Birdland Drive, where Birdland Drive would be, to the north of the park, and it would go under Second Avenue Bridge where it goes today. Parking over here next to the Powerboat Club. If I drive back, parking here at a trailhead, going back along Birdland Drive, parking by the Ding Darling Shelter. Then I could drive back out on Sailor, and I could pull in at Thompson to park next to the marina. And I could circle that parking lot. I could go out on Pennsylvania. I could come back in and go down the River Gateway, and I could turn left into this small parking lot that serves this overlook pavilion. Or
we should mention there is parking on the River Gateway as well.
Thank you. There is parking on this River Gateway. Or I could turn behind the boathouse and go to the smaller lot back here. But my vehicular route stops right here where that peach color stops, and then I would go back out.
Thanks, Tom. Next, we have a comment from Councilor Westergaard. This is a wonderful, exciting master plan. I am excited to move it forward. Really appreciate the comment, Councilor Westergaard. Thank you. And then I believe Eric was up next. Go ahead, Eric.
I was wondering what happens to the existing slip occupants as this moves forward.
So I think that, yeah, I think there would be discussions, obviously with an upgraded facility. We would be looking at changing what the slip fees are. You know, but in terms of, are we looking to wipe the slate clean and push away our current slip rentals? Absolutely not. So you know, exactly how those fees transition over time, or what they look like going forward, that's actually also a scope component of the master plan project. One of the sub-consultants, Pros Consulting, is looking at that specifically.
Not so much the fee as of people that are actually in the marina right now. Would they be able to pick their slip, or would they just be, you know, is it going to be a everybody on a list, and how, you know, that's my question.
Sure. There's actually a number of different models, I think, that are in use across the nation at different marinas. We would be looking to approach marina use equitably. So understanding that we would like to see a certain degree of turnover and opportunity for new people. But at the same time, I do think there would be some deference given to our existing slip renters. You know, and if I'm getting off track here, Jay and Tom, you know, redirect me. But we're not looking to offend current slip renters, but we don't know exactly what that model will look like at this time.
Okay.
You're dead on. The other, I just as a matter of how this might happen, when the marina is built, there will be a period of time where the marina renters today we're going to have to find another spot for your boats, whether that's on the river or maybe they come out for a season. I'm not sure we figured that out, but while the new marina is under construction, of course, there will not be access to the marina, and there will be a need to work through that as well. Eric.
Next, we have a question from Raven. Will traffic for Sailor Pen Road be affected during the renovation process?
Only a little bit, Raven. There's intent to make the gateway at Thompson, at that intersection of Thompson, the River Gateway, and Sailor, Pennsylvania, a better experience. So we talked through that with the city. I can't remember if that was this week or last week. We talked through that, but there's some opportunities to make that intersection a little bit better right there. And then where we're showing the new marina parking lot popping back out on Pennsylvania Avenue, there's going to be some impact there where you're doing some curb repair and some curb change and things like that. And the same thing happens at the new Birdland Drive at the north end, where there'll be some curb cutting, some curb changes, but those are really pretty small. They're pretty minor, those impacts. So they have a very small impact on the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and part of the River Gateway crossing for Penn onto Thompson Avenue, you know, we would like to shorten what that crossing distance is and refine that to make sure we're protecting those bike and pedestrian users. So, you know, an example of, I think up by Des Moines University, where there's kind of a pedestrian island in the middle of the street. We wouldn't do a pedestrian island here. I think we'd be looking to bring the curbs in a little bit from the side, just at that crossing location. So improving the pedestrian safety, but at the same time, not huge impacts on Sailor and Penn. Next question. Oops.
Go ahead.
How much transient boat dock space will there be?
Connor, are you still on? Would you mind doing a quick linear measure of our proposed transient boat dock launch on the marina side and then on the lagoon side? Just a real quick measure.
It's almost 50-50, so the total length is 400.
Okay, perfect.
So if the boat was 25 feet long, you might be able to get roughly 15 across there. And it can be, there's still space on that south side where it's not all along the edge of the marina. So there's room to grow, and it just becomes a very long stretch. So that's something to work out. But right now it's length for about 15, 25
Thank you, Connor.
vessels.
Thank you. And we are starting to approach in on our time, but I do want to save a few minutes for Director Page to address the attendees. But I do see Jack has his hand back up. So Jack, if you have something to say, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Colby. I just want to say that not really any questions. I just want to say this is amazing. This is really, really big thinking, and I appreciate the process we've gone through. Every time we see a new plan, it's better than the last one. So thank you to Smith Group and Ask for all the work and for listening to the feedback from us at Captain Roy's and from us in the neighborhood. Because I think we've done a lot to serve a lot of different user groups here, and this is the biggest thing that's happened in Union Park since I don't know when, and it's going to be a really big deal for the city and the region as well. And I want to thank Ben Page for his support through the whole process too. And just wanted to also mention that the process that we're going through here, whether it's master planning, wouldn't have even happened without Linda Westergaard, our city council person who worked for over a year to get the funding and the budget to pay for this master plan process. So thank you to her, and thank you to Tom Hawkins-Smith, our Polk County supervisor, who supported Captain Roy's from the beginning, which, I hope that Captain Roy's was some sort of a catalyst in moving this project forward. So a lot of good people coming together and doing some really good things. And I just wanted to say I appreciate everything every effort that everybody's put into it.
Appreciate the kind words, Jack. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack.
All right, Tom, Jay, do you have anything left?
Well, there's one last question there about
sorry,
flooding. And the question is, can you explain the impact these changes will have on flooding and river flow? The modest impact. And what I mean by that is that we cannot change the downstream, not without a very protracted permitting process. We cannot change the impacts of flooding downstream as governed by federal agencies. The intent of this project would be that where the new boathouse is proposed, we'll raise the grade there, but we'll be dropping the grade throughout the site, and that will result in no net change in flooding, downstream flooding. The project itself is not going to change the opportunity or the impacts of flooding within the park itself. One of the reasons we moved the Neil Smith Trail to the old Birdland Drive alignment was that when Birdland Drive was redone, it was raised so that it would not flood quite so often, so that that pedestrian bicycle space will not flood quite as frequently. We've also moved the Neil Smith Trail a little bit closer to Birdland Drive west of 2nd Avenue. That's a small change, and people maybe didn't notice it, but because of the scale of the drawing, but we've actually tightened that up to help improve and reduce the amount of flooding that occurs on the trail today. But there still will be times when the park floods, and that's to be expected when you're in a riverine system. The dredged lagoon is going to provide some hydraulic relief and provide some different type of bounce area, because there will be a true hydraulic connection there between the lagoon and the river, instead of it having to jump the island as it does today to get into the lagoon. But there still will be times that there will be flooding out here. It's this plan can't stop the flooding. I'm not sure that you're asking that it does, but it will still flood from time to time.
We got a couple more. Hopefully we can touch on them quick. Should you consider a service elevator on the north side of the boathouse?
I'll let Brent answer that.
Another elevator would be a great thing, but the way that we've designed the plan was trying to be as economic as we could in how we were doing elevators. And so we used one, and that one can service everything. It does require some stair steps for Captain Roy's right now, but we think one could be enough.
Thanks, Brent. And then we have from Raven, back to the road. Currently it's in rough shape with the extra traffic. Will it be maintained better? Not sure if we're talking about Penn and Sailor or Birdland Drive. Birdland Drive is primarily newer, so I'm assuming we're talking with Penn and Sailor. The street maintenance falls to the Public Works Department. If we're talking about Penn and Sailor, Birdland Drive is a park drive, so we don't really have a lot of purview over how that is managed. The Parks and Recreation Department doesn't. Can a truck pulling a rowing boat trailer make a sharp turn by and under the pedestrian bridge next to the boathouse?
Yes. So we've shown that with the peach angle being really sharp there, but there's actually additional hardscape area there. And just so folks know, we ran we ran a little model of the site with something called auto turn to ensure that we could fit emergency vehicles back there, and we ran a very large ladder truck, fire truck through there. And if the ladder truck can fit through there, the truck pulling the boat trailer will be able to fit as well. So we ran that all the way back and through that back parking lot and back out to make sure that the turning radiuses would accommodate that large vehicle to be able to get all the way in there and make that spin. And that was the ladder truck that's got the legs that come out and drop down so that they can brace the truck. It's the large bifurcating truck in the middle that we ran through there.
And then we got last question, similar concern, hard to get a scale of the area, but seems like it might be a lot of traffic in a small area.
Well, on one level, I hope it is. I hope that there is a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic here and people using the lagoon. So in one sense, I hope, David, that there is a lot of traffic when this is all said and done. That might not be what you're asking. You were probably asking about vehicular traffic. And we hope we've disseminated and spread out the parking sufficiently that allow people to be able to, if things are congested in one spot, that it's not inconvenient to be able to park in another location and still be able to conveniently access the area you want to get to. So we really have tried to be pretty thoughtful about spreading out the parking so that we don't end up with one big massive parking lot, and also ensuring there are lots of ways and lots of places for people to be able to access the park.
I can also make one comment just about overall traffic counts and traffic volumes. We have done some design of shared streets in urban environments, and in doing that, we've done a lot of research on what kind of traffic counts an environment like that is really well suited to. And that threshold is really about 3,000 trips a day. Once you get to that point or over that point, it starts to not work really well. So if we're in a really urban environment, if we're in the downtown, we would target a street with maybe 2,000 trips a day or less. Birdland Park Drive now gets about 500 trips a day, and you will get more. You will get trips for Captain Roy's, for the boathouse, for people coming to the park, but that overall volume we feel fits within the context that we're talking about, where we feel it could be a really effective environment, even though it is active and thriving. It can still function well within that context.
All right. I guess this is kind of the formal end of or not the end of the meeting, and Ben still has a few words, but I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight and listening to the great work that Smith Group and their consulting team has worked on. And we're really excited to continue pushing this forward. And from here, I'll turn it over to Director Page.
Thanks, Colby. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. I want to tell the similar story of a lot of thanks to bring this to fruition tonight, but there's also a lot of work left to be done for everybody, including all the great folks that have participated in this concept and design input. We have to go through a public process that takes us through a park board approval. And on the call tonight is a number of great park board members that I know support this project, including our chair, George Davis. And then eventually the entire city council has to weigh in. And I think the elephant in the room for a lot of people is it's always great to have these great plans on a shelf, but can you actually do them? And I really believe we can. If you look at the history of Des Moines and all the great public spaces that have been built, most have been built without really a lot of city taxpayer money. I looked at Grays Lake as a great example. Is people always said, if you look back, you lived in Des Moines long enough, you realize Grays Lake wasn't Grays Lake like we know it today. It wasn't anything that people actually wanted to visit. They felt like unsafe there most times until it was built out in the late 90s, early 2000s. This has the real capabilities of becoming something bigger and better than Gray's Lake as far as activity and hubs. It could be one of the most iconic parks in the history of this city. So we need your help to help get through the next couple plans, but over time, we need your patience too, to make sure you understand that a lot of this will be subject to fundraising and to grant writing and to finding philanthropic people to get this done in waves and phases. Lastly, I would say that all the thanks are very appropriate to you, Jack and Wade at Captain Royce, for putting this back on the map. Our consultants, we told them to dream big, and I've never been more impressed with the consultants that dreamt this big for us. Hats off to them. They listened, and they did a great job, in my opinion, to show us what it all, to bring everybody's ideas together to one cohesive plan. And last but not least, the thanks for me stops with Colby Fangman. It takes a great quarterback when you lead these type of processes, and Colby's one of the more patient planning experts I've worked with. He does a great job of making sure everybody's heard, and not just heard, it shows up in the planning. So Colby, great work to you. I'm excited now, and it's all up to Colby to get this built for us now, everybody. So write a check to Colby Fangman, and it'll go to this project. No, I'm just kidding on that.
Bring it on. We'll get the endowment going.
That's right. Stay tuned. We've got a great friends of Des Moines Parks. They're going to help with this project as well. But hopefully in the next 2 months, we kind of melt these plans together to be cohesive with the Central Iowa Water Trails plans, and we're off and going before you know it. Thanks again, everybody. It's great to see over 50 people on a public virtual meeting. We don't get that many coming to sometimes our council meetings, so it's really exciting to see this much input.
Well, thank you, Director Page, and thank you everybody for being here. We are thrilled to be a part of the process and a part of the project, and can't say enough about all the great feedback and input that we've gotten from everyone. And we look forward to refining this and moving the whole thing forward. So thanks again, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Thanks, everybody.